This video is a continuation of my playthrough of White Eagles, and I'll just give the overview and how the game ended up with a few pictures that I took while I was playing it. So this is the 8 o'clock turn. I just have singled out this one set of woods, which look at, the Germans are wasting a lot of time here, I'm afraid. There's a couple of Polish infantry units hanging out there, the 5-3 rated units. And you can see the Germans are using their, they got 3 air units per turn to bring in. So I ended up drawing a Ju-88. So I got a few of them coming in, and they obviously put the hurt on this lieutenant, this very poor lieutenant. He's a 7 morale, and he's got no really assets other than maybe being able to coordinate troops, but he ends up getting disrupted. The infantry's fine, but so far the Germans have really surrounded this area. This next picture is showing how things are at 8:15 a.m. You will see that the Germans are doing well against this weak lieutenant unit in the lower right side. And they're not taking very many strength losses, but I have used air support. You notice this incredibly powerful Stuka. I like when I draw that one. That's a great unit. 24 barrage factor is quite good. But what we do see happening, an hour into this battle, the Polish are still effectively delaying the Germans. And I think this is partly my fault in how I'm playing the Germans. But nonetheless, that's happening. And you'll see the area that's really important, that entrenchment area on top of that hill. There's only a few German units there, and they're kind of in there piecemeal at this stage. But that's what we have at 8:15. This next picture is showing the 8:30 a.m. turn. And now the Germans are starting to get into that area. And I think an important thing to remember is that area, that ring of entrenchments, that is the only area that's really important in this game, other than if you want to try to slow units down. But the Polish player has spread the units out, and the Germans have kind of fallen for it. And you can see I got a weak air strike in there against the town with this Bf-110. It's only a 6 barrage strength, not so good, but up in the area that really counts, I ended up drawing the Stukas again. So it's helpful if they can put the herd on. The thing is, the entrenchments offer some degree of protection for the troops. Now I'm skipping ahead to the 9 o'clock turn. This is kind of showing that town that's in the center of the map from before. And you'll see the Polish have a very good leader in there. He's a 10 morale and a 1 combat factor and a 1 morale factor for helping the troops out. And I have this heavy machine gun is on the corner of the city. That's a tough unit. And you'll see the unit that I have in the northeast part of the city there. There's a red KTX marker on it. And that I'm using to mark assault. So you've got both sides units are in that hex. So the Germans are assaulting the Polish there. Somehow I've displaced them out of the city. They're supposed to be in hex 0710. And you'll notice I'm able to continue to have this ongoing air support, and I have an HE-111 group squadron flying in, trying to provide some close support. Now we go up to the 9 a.m. turn, and now the Germans are really committed. You'll see in that town that was in the center of the map there on the lower left, I've got 2 assault combats going on against the defending Polish there, and they're effectively distracting away from this hill. And also, I now have 2 assaults going on against these entrenched units that are holding this hill. And you'll see I've got 1 lieutenant there who's got a very strong combat rating, the 2-1 lieutenant. And then I have a 2-1 lieutenant colonel waiting in the wings. He's kind of a high-ranking leader, but this is probably going to come in effective in my combats later on. Now around 10 o'clock or so, you have that. This is a scene from the left-hand side of the overview map, but the Germans have been really occupied with this group that's isolated. You basically have an infantry platoon and you have a 37 millimeter in there, and they're doing a great job at tying up the German troops here. You see they don't even have a leader, so they're just on their own defending and taking up time. This is the 10:45 turn, and the 10:45 turn, and you'll see this next picture is showing what's going on in this town in the center of the map. I've got two, assaults going on, and so far the Polish are really doing well hanging in there. I did manage to really damage this heavy machine gun. As far as their morale, they are, they're demoralized, so they've got to run for cover until they can get out of that state, so they're not so useful at this stage. You'll also see that I got a bunch of air units on there. I have some Ju-88s, some He-111s, and even some Messerschmitts came in, and they've been addressing this 100 millimeter gun up here, which is, it's in a kind of hanging out in the open, but it's been able to really take some incredible shots at the German units that are attacking that hill. So this is why I gave it a little bit of attention with the air units. You also see I've got an 81, the Polish have an 81 millimeter mortar on the back side of that hill, which is, taking pot shots at the Germans coming in. You'll notice I've got two close combats going on the front side of the hill, but that middle one, I believe, is captured now by the Germans. So that's why there's no red X marker on it. The Germans actually have captured that entrenchment, but it's only one out of the 8 or so entrenchments that they need to get. Now I'm up to the 11 o'clock turn. Again, there's still fighting going on in that center town, and you'll see the heavy machine guns starting to recover its morale down in the corner of the woods, and because it's going to start blasting away at the Germans. It can fire at that close combat. Sure, some of his own troops might get hit, but these are the prices that you pay. When you look at the money area in the top left, top right of the screen, this is where the entrenchments are, and you now see that the Germans have control of the 3 entrenchment hexes on the front side of that hill. However, the Polish are controlling the back side of the hill, but the Germans are starting to devote a little bit more resources to subduing these. This is 11:15, and I'm taking a close-up of this hill, and you'll see where the Germans have control on the lower side of the hill, and they've got close combat going on in the 2 side hexes of the entrenched areas, and then in the top left you have another assault going on. However, the Germans have captured pretty much the entire right side of the hill here, and then there is one set of Polish units that have a demoralized leader, and another unit in that very top entrenchment that is still holding on, but the Poles are going to have to deal with that leader who's demoralized. This is like the 11:35, 12 o'clock turn now. This is a little bit of an overview of what's left. You'll see that the heavy machine gun that was in that woods is blown out, and the town on the far left has been blown away, but that 37 millimeter gun got destroyed up in that left hand corner woods. However, the infantry, even though it's reduced, is still putting up a fight and tying up a bunch of German units. You'll also see the city in the center. That town in the lower left side of it still has Polish units that are holding out there. And then you can see in the hill on the right hand side of the screen, you've got all the places where the German units have taken control, but there are still 4 places where there's combat going on. So the Germans do not control those 4 entrenchment hexes. Even though they control 5 other ones, it's not enough to win the game. So yes, I mean, in the large picture, yeah, the Poles are going to lose. Of course, they're losing in September of 1939, but they did better than they were expected to here, especially with all of that German aircraft that was used. This next picture I have here, this is just showing what was going on in this assault hex. You've got this German colonel and a couple of units being held off by this, reduced infantry platoon. And so it just was a remarkable show on the part of the Poles on that, the western side of this battle. This next picture is showing what was going on in that town in the center. And of course, the Germans have captured most of this town. But the lower left-hand side, you see there's, a Polish lieutenant with a couple of units in there. And then the X markers on the Germans, I pulled them off so you could see the Polish units that were holding out in that town. And this is the last picture showing the objective. And you will see on the bottom there, the Germans control 3 of these entrenched places, and in the top right side, the northeastern side of this hill, the Germans control 2 more. However, they are engaged with defending Poles in these 4 hexes that are marked with the red markers. So this is what gave the Poles the victory in this game. Anyway, this was called Black Monday, September 25th, 1939, and I had a lot of fun playing this game. From the White Eagles supplement. Thank you for watching this video and have a great day.